It started as just another ordinary evening at a local Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academy. The mats were packed, the air thick with effort and ego, and students were pairing up for live rolling. Among them was a quiet woman who didn't look like the stereotypical fighter. She wasn't loud, she wasn't flashy, and she certainly didn't boast about her skills. To many in the room, she appeared to be just another beginner trying to survive her first months of training. But what happened next would shock everyone watching and turn a moment of mockery into a powerful lesson about humility, discipline, and the true spirit of martial arts. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, often called BJJ, is a grappling martial art that focuses on leverage, technique, and strategy rather than brute strength. Legends like Royce Gracie proved decades ago in the early days of the Ultimate Fighting Championship that a smaller, technically skilled fighter could defeat larger and stronger opponents. That philosophy is at the heart of every BJJ academy: technique conquers size. Yet sometimes, even in a sport built on humility, egos creep in. On this particular day, a black belt, someone who had trained for years and earned one of the highest honors in the sport, was in a confident mood. Black belts are respected figures in BJJ. They represent dedication, perseverance, and mastery of the art. Students often look up to them as mentors. But respect must go both ways. The woman had recently joined the academy. She trained consistently, listened carefully, and absorbed every detail. She asked questions, stayed late to drill techniques, and rarely spoke unless necessary. To some of the more experienced practitioners, she seemed unremarkable. She didn't dominate warm-ups. She didn't overpower anyone. She simply showed up and worked. When it came time for sparring, partners were chosen. The black belt, perhaps feeling playful or perhaps wanting to show off, made a comment that caught the attention of those nearby. He laughed lightly and suggested he would go easy, because he didn't want to hurt a beginner. A few chuckles echoed across the mat. The woman smiled politely, bowed, and stepped forward. The timer started. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, matches begin from either standing or on the knees, depending on the gym's rules. As they engaged, the black belt reached casually, likely expecting to control the situation instantly. But in a split second, the dynamic shifted. The woman moved with precision. She secured a grip, changed her angle, and executed a clean takedown that surprised everyone watching. The black belt hit the mat harder than expected. Before he could reset his position, she passed his guard with technical sharpness, sliding her knee through, establishing dominant control. There was no hesitation. She transitioned smoothly, isolating his arm. The black belt attempted to defend, but her positioning was flawless. Her hips were tight, her balance stable. In what felt like seconds, she extended his arm into a textbook armbar. Tap. 14 seconds. Silence filled the room before a wave of stunned reactions erupted. 14 seconds. A black belt, someone who had likely spent over a decade mastering the craft, had been submitted by the very person he underestimated. What most didn't know was that this woman wasn't just a random beginner. Before joining this academy, she had years of grappling experience elsewhere. She had competed regionally. She had trained under respected instructors. But she never led with that information. She chose to let her actions speak. This moment wasn't just about a submission. It was about mindset. In martial arts, humility is everything. The Japanese concept of shoshin, or beginner's mind, teaches practitioners to approach training with openness and lack of preconceptions, even at advanced levels. When ego enters the mat, learning stops. The black belt, for just a moment, forgot that lesson. The beauty of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu lies in its unpredictability. Anyone can catch anyone. Even world champions like Marcus Almeida have been surprised in competition. Upsets happen. That's the nature of a sport where a small miscalculation can cost you everything. But what made this story powerful wasn't just the speed of the submission. It was how the woman reacted afterward. She didn't celebrate wildly. She didn't mock him back. She released the arm immediately, helped him up, bowed again, and quietly returned to the edge of the mat. Her composure spoke louder than the submission itself. The black belt, to his credit, eventually smiled and nodded. He understood what had happened. In that moment, he was reminded that the belt around his waist did not make him invincible. It symbolized responsibility, to lead, to stay humble, to respect every training partner. Moments like this echo the core philosophy that made Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu globally respected. When Royce Gracie adapted traditional Japanese Jiu-Jitsu techniques to emphasize leverage over strength, the goal was to empower smaller individuals against larger opponents. It wasn't about dominance through intimidation. It was about intelligence, patience, and precision. And that's exactly what the woman demonstrated. 14 seconds might seem short, but in grappling, it can feel like an eternity. Every movement matters. A grip placed slightly wrong can mean escape. A second too slow can mean defeat. Her timing was impeccable. The lesson here extends far beyond the mats. How often do we underestimate people based on appearances? How often do we assume someone is less capable because they're quiet, new, or different from what we expect? This story challenges those assumptions. In sports psychology, confidence is crucial, but overconfidence can be destructive. Studies consistently show that athletes who underestimate opponents perform worse because they prepare less mentally. The black belt likely approached the role casually. The woman approached it with focus. Focus wins. This isn't about disrespecting black belts. Achieving that rank in BJJ is incredibly difficult. It typically takes 10 to 15 years of dedicated training. It requires thousands of hours on the mat, countless bruises, injuries, and lessons learned. But the belt is not a shield against reality. Every roll is a new battle. The academy buzzed with conversation for the rest of the evening. Some students replayed the sequence in their minds. Others whispered about how clean the technique was. A few newer members looked inspired. If she could do that, what was possible for them? That's the hidden power of moments like these. They inspire. Women in martial arts continue to break barriers. Organizations like the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation have seen a steady rise in female competitors over the years. Female champions such as Mackenzie Dern have demonstrated that technical excellence knows no gender. The mat doesn't care who you are. It responds only to skill. This story reminds us that skill is built quietly. While others talk, someone else is drilling. While others laugh, someone else is studying. While others underestimate, someone else is preparing. 14 seconds was the result of years of unseen effort. The next time the woman trained at that academy, the atmosphere had shifted. There was no more mockery. There was respect. People asked her for tips. They wanted to understand how she moved so efficiently. And she shared openly, without ego. That's true martial spirit. In many ways, the black belt gained something valuable that day too. Defeat, especially unexpected, defeat, is a powerful teacher. It forces reflection. It sharpens awareness. Some of the greatest improvements come after being humbled. If you've ever stepped onto a mat, whether for BJJ, judo, wrestling, or any combat sport, you know the taps are part of the journey. You either win or you learn. There is no losing if you're willing to grow. The story of the 14-second submission isn't about embarrassment. It's about perspective. The quiet student might be a hidden expert. The new face might have years of experience. The person you doubt might surprise you. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu strips away assumptions. It reveals truth through action. There are no shortcuts once the timer starts. And perhaps that's why this moment resonates so deeply. In a world obsessed with appearances and titles, the mat offers clarity. It doesn't care about your reputation. It doesn't care about your belt color. It only reflects your preparation. 14 seconds. That's all it took to turn laughter into silence. 14 seconds to remind an entire room that humility is the foundation of mastery. 14 seconds to prove that underestimating someone can be your greatest mistake. And for anyone watching this story unfold, the message is clear: never judge a book by its cover, never stop learning, and never let ego step onto the mat before you do. Because somewhere, someone is training quietly, and they might just surprise you.